Coming at you, pre-recorded from the Content Drop Decision Desk, Tom.
Thank you, Jeb. Little low energy, but it's okay. So, I'm doing a political video. I'm going to be going through the map as I am predicting it to play out. We are going to start east to west as we count the election, and I'm going to single out a few of the states that we have already filled in as either safe or likely, because those are the ones currently filled in. And then we're going to go into the swing states and the prediction part. But for now, let's start with Maine. Maine, which last time went only to Clinton by about 2.9 points, is now close to safe territory. It's in that likely, but when I say I should give context. For me, I'm considering tilt anything within 3. The lean margin is 4 to 9. Likely is 10 to 14, and safe is 15 plus. And I lopped in so far on this map what you're seeing, and that is what this map looks like at the moment. 216 to 125 for Biden. That is likely and safe together. So Maine, as I was saying, went within close to a tilt margin, but in that lean to Hillary Clinton in the last election. It is polling very, very well in the statewide polling, but this is one of those states where we have it broken up into districts. I mean, every state is, but it's broken up into different districts that you can have a different result in for where their electoral vote goes. And Trump last time won the 2nd district of Maine, and this time he is not favored. Biden is favored, but by a tilt margin. That's a state that, a district that it appears is a good barometer of where Trump's support is at versus 2016. Not a ton else in the Northeast corridor that would surprise you. New Hampshire, which in the previous election, 2016, went to Hillary Clinton by a mere, it's about like 3,000 votes, under 3,000 votes. By 0.3. This time around is polling in the likely column around 11, 10 points. So looking very, very good for the former vice president in New Hampshire. New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, we know. Please excuse my inability to draw the Delaware, Maryland, D.C. area. I am so sorry. And also, if the Democrats lose the Rust Belt, it's my fault because it's terrible. I did a terrible job. But, so that's pretty self-explanatory. West Virginia, I actually wanted to point out, because West Virginia, Donald Trump won in the previous election by something around over 40 points. And polling had it closer to 20 this time around. But the interesting thing there is you're not going to see a lot of polling in states that are kind of foregone conclusions because there doesn't seem to be a reason to pull it other than the occasional, hey, where's the barometer going? Like, how bad is it getting for a candidate? Does the national poll reflect how bad their support is in a state that supposedly should be theirs? And West Virginia is not leaving good news for Donald Trump if those polls are correct. Illinois is one I wanted to point out because Illinois, traditionally a safe Democratic state, is actually, according to 538's polling average, only plus 14 for the Dems. So yeah, it's only a point off of safe, but it's worth noting. It's a move in a direction. So that's something. One of the few states that's kind of going rightward, not by much, but it's something to keep and monitor. South Carolina, because there's a important Senate election there between Jamie Harrison and Mr. Turtle Man. Not McConnell. Sorry, McConnell is Turtle Man. But Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is polling just ahead, and it seems like he's actually underperforming Trump in that state because Trump is doing better than Lindsey Graham, so that's something notable. I still would be absolutely floored if South Carolina went blue, but the fact that it's closer again is something worth noting. Other than that, I mean, we'll get to those swing states, which there are plenty of there. Missouri had a poll today that was within 5. Again, I'd still be shocked, but it's interesting to see movement there. Arkansas earlier on was close, but there was only one poll in, and now there are more polls, and it's gone back to safe. So, yeah, nothing much down here in the South. Pretty clear, except for one notable exception, but we'll get to it. South Dakota, much like Illinois, is likely by a point rather than safe. It's something to note. Nebraska, I jammed that extra district in there because Joe Biden is leading that district fairly comfortably in that lean margin. So that is something to note. That is not something last time that went well for the Democrats. And other than that, Kansas has been a tiny bit closer than I would have thought. Montana is showing signs of being really close. Not flippable, but like 5 points. Interesting. And that's basically it. Colorado is close to safe. New Mexico is very comfortably around that 12-point range. And Hawaii, very Democratic. Alaska is showing signs of being interesting as well, but again, I'd be shocked if Trump won it. If Trump didn't win it. So, I showed my bias. So, swing states, the big part of this video. Let's start in the West this time. Nevada. Nevada went to Hillary Clinton by a little over 2 points. But the averages actually had Trump as, if not the favorite, then basically on top by slim margins there. And Hillary Clinton actually is one of the few states she overperformed. And the polling seems to have a somewhat comfortable lead of 6 points. I think, if we were talking a few months ago, that would still be up for debate. But just with a couple days to go, I feel comfortable giving that to Joe Biden. Nevada. That's how that's pronounced, by the way. I was told by the news. All right, Arizona. Arizona was a state that went to Donald Trump last time around 4 points, a little bit under 4 points. And obviously there's been a lot that's happened since then. The McCains have gotten behind Joe Biden. There's a huge Senate race there where the Democrats are leading. And to me, it's tilting Democrat right now. I think some of the polls are kind of starting to push it as of today, which is Sunday. The last polls I looked at had it back up to 3, or a little bit over 3 in Arizona after getting very, very close again for a while. But we had an A pollster in the New York Times and Siena go +6 for Biden here. The only polls that I've seen here are Rasmussen that have Trump up. Rasmussen and I believe one other, but it looks like a tilt margin for me. It's going to be one of the closer ones. But I think we have 8 states that I have in the tilt margin. And that, for me, is Joe Biden's to lose. Which is, of course, completely possible because I am just a man making a prediction. Iowa. I skipped Texas. I'll be coming back to it, don't worry. Iowa has been neck and neck for a very long time. And I've had this theory in the back of my head that why would a state that voted in the primaries not very favorably to Joe Biden at all, why would they now vote for him in the general? Like, I would think they don't think very highly of him. But Joe Biden has been doing fine there. It's been very, very, very close. It's been within 1 point there. I'm not a professional. But I do actually feel that, I believe in the previous election, 10 points to Trump. And I've had this theory that Trump's lost about 7-8% of his support from last time, and I will tell you why that is with some of the other states. But I'm gonna Donald Trump ekes it out in Iowa, a state that he carried by 10 points in 2016, and so kind of going along with my theory that Trump's lost between 7 and 9 points. He won it by 10, and now it's a tilt. So that kind of goes along with it. All right. Down to Texas now. Texas, which went 9 points to Donald Trump last time, which was pulled on the RCP averages as Trump plus 12 prior to the election. So if you applied that same error, 3 points to the Democrats, to this election, where it's basically Trump plus 1, even though there was a high-quality poll today out of Texas that had Biden up 2, which is nuts. I still think by the scruff of their neck that Donald Trump would just be able to eke it out in Texas. It's a high turnout election. Texas has had crazy turnout so far, and but that doesn't only mean good things for the Democrats. It generally usually does. But I'm gonna give it to Texas. Give it to Texas. Give it up for Texas, everyone. I'm gonna give it to Donald Trump by a slight little bit. Probably, I'm gonna say within a point. I'm gonna bold prediction. Not really. So now we did Iowa. Let's go down south. Let's go to Florida. Florida went Donald Trump by 1.2 in the previous election. Hillary was projected to win it going into Election Day, but it was extremely tight even in the polling. And that's a state where the polling wasn't necessarily wrong because it was within the margin of error. And you have to acknowledge that probability isn't certainty. We're trying to predict percent chances, and the other, like the unlikely things, sometimes happen. That's how stuff works. And Florida, the last bunch of polls have all had Biden up. Now, I've had this theory that, well, it's not, no, you know what, discredit it. It's not my theory. People don't, Miami-Dade, the turnout so far, the early vote, still probably too close to be very favorable to Joe Biden right now. I wonder if the polls are, I don't know, it's so hard to say because it's within the margin of error in the state. So if they're wrong, it's still, it's not like Wisconsin margin from last time. I'm going to give it to Donald Trump. There's something about Florida, people have talked about, it's resistant to partisan shifts because the ground games in Florida tend to be very, very strong. Hillary Clinton apparently actually ran a pretty decent campaign here, according to some experts that I've watched from the distance. And Joe Biden is not getting that same level of Hispanic and black support that he needs to override the white support. And Joe Biden, if he's going to win, it's going to be through huge defections in suburban areas and through seniors because of COVID. Because they're like, hi, I would like to not be dead. And I would, I'd like not to be dead. That's the thing. So I'm going to give it to Donald Trump. There's something about Florida where you just never know with Florida. It's a truly purple state. All right, Georgia. Let's the Florida-Georgia line for you country fans. I cringed through my own face just saying that. Now, not the country fan part. Don't get offended by that. By just my face. So, Georgia, +5 last time to Donald Trump. It is extremely, extremely, extremely close. Once again, the polls are within the margin of error. The polls on 538 have a slight 1.5, 1.6 lead for Joe Biden. The turnout has been very, very good. This was one of the hotbeds for, protests, riots, and it feels like a turning point moment here for Georgia. In my opinion, the fact that it's so close, and like last time, it wasn't like a crazy margin, 5 points, but it feels like there's like a nerve that's been hit, and the turnout is reflecting dissatisfaction with the current everything. And I actually do think that by the tiniest of margins, Joe Biden pulls out Georgia. Now, of course, this would be a huge call, and if this goes on election night, Joe is probably feeling pretty good. But with so many swing states, and also me not wanting to give away my prediction yet, it would look very good for Joe, but does that mean it's over? Not necessarily. My favorite lawyer phrase, not necessarily. All right, North Carolina, one of the hardest ones for me to pick, along with Georgia. Previous election, 2016, Trump by 3.6. All right. Just outside the tilt. It was won by Obama in 2008, but not in 2012. It's generally more of a right-leaning state, but has shown, like in a blue moon, Obama was, at the time, this huge superstar candidate, and turnout was nice. It wasn't 69% or anything. I just said nice, and then I made the joke. It didn't work. And North Carolina, anecdotal stuff, because there were too much data going on. Right, Jeb? Too much data. We need anecdotes. So anecdotal stuff is all the polling Twitter pages that I've been following. In the comments, like everybody's like, you'll drive past 10 houses and you'll see 5 Trump signs and 5 Biden signs, and it sounds like it could be one of the closest state elections of the general. And of course, there's another big Senate seat here up for grabs, and the Democrats are leading there, so it tends to follow suit that, Joe Biden has a good shot here. And the recent polling has been good to Joe Biden. Again, tilt margin. So if they're wrong, don't get angry at me. That's the main thing I want to say. Don't get angry at me. But it is going to be extremely, extremely close. I've already revealed what I'm doing since I'm taking the cap off the blue pen. I think maybe a little bit of the Obama legacy is what reawakens the Democrats in North Carolina, a state that absolutely can go either way. So at this point, the map is looking pretty good for Joe Biden. He wasn't able to pick off Texas. Obviously, the election would be over if he picked off Texas. Florida, I went against the polls there. I tried not to just be just attached to the polls and not paying attention otherwise, and not having my own free will otherwise. But Florida is a tricky one, and I went with my gut there, and I went with my gut in Georgia, because within the margin could go either way. So kind of have to just go with your gut on that. All right. I mean, I guess you could use historical precedent as well, but I'm saying that this will be a moment, a change moment. So anyway, all right. Yeah, I think Ohio's good to go to next. Ohio is pretty much a virtual tie right now, and this again goes with my idea. 8 points lost. How much did Trump win Ohio by? Oh, what's that? 8.1 points? Oh, it's a virtual tie right now? My theory is correct. Bar none. I'm completely correct. Ohio, I believe, when push comes to shove, will stick with Trump. It is so close. And it's another one of those states, Ohio, election night. Keep an eye on it, because that could be a great barometer to see if the polls were right in general. Because, like I said, that 8-point drop-off, if that state is super tight for the majority of the night, and it's too close to call into the wee hours of the next morning, probably a great sign for Joe Biden. A state that went 8 points to Trump last time, being a complete and utter toss-up. Probably a good sign. I am, despite Governor Kasich, or former whatever Kasich, trying to sway voters to not vote for Trump, guess what? Didn't work. I'm going to go and say Donald Trump retains by the hair on his finely combed head, Ohio. So, what do we got now? Where are we at on this? We have Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, right? All right, so Joe Biden is 4 votes from victory. Donald Trump needs to run the table to win the election. Let's go to the state that currently thinks, well, the state doesn't think. Let's go to the polling in the state that the numbers say is the closest right now, and Donald Trump has the best shot at. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania last time, how much did Donald Trump win by? A massive 0.7. So very tight. And again, I could lazily just say the 8-point loss applies here. Biden by 8. But I'm not going to do that because I owe you more. But also because Things have been tight here. It's not quite like we see how like regions will vote together a little bit. Like we've seen the Southeast getting more interesting for the Democrats, and the Southwest, because I mean, New Mexico, Arizona going blue, Texas being purple. Regionally, we're seeing states stick together, and the polling here is all extremely tight. And Pennsylvania, which is close to that region and shares culturally somewhat of the same culture that Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan do, but it's got a little bit more of the East Coast. Philadelphia, of course, is going to go hard Biden, but how much? Because that's going to probably decide PA. I've been stalling long enough. I do believe that Joe Biden, by a tilt margin, even though the polling right now is around 5 for Biden, and it would be tough to swing that by Election Day, acknowledge that the margin of error tends to be around 3. So down to 2 points. And then there are going to be lawsuits. And let's just say the worst possible result for America is the election coming down to PA, where everything else is extremely close. I think the scenario would be Arizona goes red, Georgia red, North Carolina red, and these 3 go blue, and then PA is like the deciding factor. If that's the case, doomsday bunkers are preferred. Pennsylvania, by a tilt margin, and giving the presidency to the challenger, Joe Biden, that would put Joe, of course, over 270, but what would it put him at exactly? That would put him at 286. Again, this is by a tilt margin. And now, I guess we'll run through these 3 states because they're polling all at about the same. We had a 7-point error. One of the biggest errors you could possibly imagine in Wisconsin last time. And that was the result. The result of that was a 0.7 victory for Trump, much like PA. So again, being consistent, you don't just have to apply the same thing to another state. It's a different circumstance, but he's polling at +9 in each of these. We're going to give them all to Joe Biden. Even if you apply the 7-point error from last time, Joe Biden cleans up the rest of the map and achieves a victory of, I'll tell you in 1 second. I am apologizing once again to the Rust Belt for its crude drawing. So, what does that put us at? That would put us at a 322 to 216 victory for Joseph R. Biden. And that is my prediction. So, again, swing states, Arizona, Texas, Iowa, Ohio, Rust Belt, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. A lot of swing states, a lot of variants that can happen on election night. But I think I'll be more watching the margin of a Biden victory at the risk of once again feeling like 2016. I do think the superb numbers for Joe in these 3 states pretty much carries it. And that's it. So wherever you lie, please be peaceful and stuff. Please, please, please remember that we're all in this together, and we just want everybody to have a say in government. So I'm glad to see the turnout so high. Maybe also vote with this turnout in the primaries so you don't have to complain about the candidates that you are getting in the general, because you have a say in that. So that would be my advice for next time. Vote in not just the presidential election, please. So that is it on Content Drop. And we will see you 4 years from now with our prediction of AOC versus Ivanka Trump. Calling it now, and we'll see you never. Bye.